In a move that sounds more like the premise of a quirky Netflix drama than a Sunday Times feature, Anders Povlsen, a Danish fashion mogul, has achieved what British nobility and Middle Eastern oligarchs could only dream of. He's become the United Kingdom's largest private landowner. Yes, you heard that right. A man whose fortune was spun from the looms of the affordable fashion industry now owns more of Great Britain than any other private citizen. Indeed, forget about Downton Abbey and its aristocratic grandeur. Povlsen's empire, funded by the mass sale of jeans and t-shirts, is the new astonishing face of British land ownership. However, this Danish billionaire's unconventional path to pure domination of the UK's property market hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows. Along the way to becoming the UK's top man on land, he's suffered episodes of legendarily profound personal loss that lend a complex texture to his ascendance. Thus, in today's episode of Old Money Luxury, join us as we offer up Povlsen's jaw-dropping chapter in the pages of British financial history as we describe Anders Povlsen, the Danish billionaire who bought the United Kingdom. In the idyllic Danish town of Ringkøbing, the 4th of November 1972 marked the birth of a future titan of industry, Anders Holck Povlsen. Son of Troels Holck Povlsen and Merete Beck Povlsen, Anders was the scion of a family deeply entrenched in commerce. You see, the Povlsens had opened their first apparel store in 1975 in Brande, which later flourished into bestseller, an international retail clothing behemoth and a crown that Anders would ultimately don, becoming its sole proprietor. Now, childhood for Anders was far from opulent, despite his family's increasing affluence. His parents emphasized the virtues of diligence, tenacity, and keeping personal matters close to the vest, values that would later sculpt his business ethos. As the eldest of two sons in a household where enterprise was essentially a fifth family member, Anders' upbringing was a fertile ground for incubating his future ambitions. And during the 1980s, a decade often characterized by excess, Anders was busy absorbing lessons in frugality and pragmatism. His educational track was impeccably designed for business stewardship. He garnered degrees from a Danish business college, Cambridge, and Berlin University of Economics and Law. During these formative years, Anders also cultivated a passion for the Scottish Highlands, a love affair ignited during a fishing expedition with his parents, and an emotional connection that would eventually help to make him one of Scotland's largest private landholders. When 1990 rolled around, 18-year-old Povlsen was prepared to leap into the arena of fashion himself. With a freshly minted degree from Business College in Herning, Denmark, he integrated himself into the bestseller matrix. His initial years were underscored by an unquenchable thirst for industry knowledge, a characteristic that quickly elevated him to a pivotal role in the family enterprise. By 1995, Povlsen found himself staring down his first major executive decision. Bestseller was perched at the brink of substantial growth, and as the wunderkind at the wheel, his tactics blended an homage to the company's origins with a sagacious outlook on its potential. Povlsen sensed the shifting retail terrain and steered the company accordingly, introducing new product lines and extending its reach to a wider customer demographic. But his modus operandi wasn't merely about risk for the sake of excitement. It was calculated, weighed against potential rewards and setbacks. Indeed, as Povlsen navigated the complexities of the unpredictable fashion industry, his shrewd decisions seemed to turn everything they touched into retail gold. Yet, even as bestseller flourished, setting the stage for his land acquisitions in the UK, a lingering question hung in the air. Could a man who so deftly conquered the fickle world of fashion translate that Midas touch to the even more precarious realm of land and legacy? In 1997, a 28-year-old Anders Holck Povlsen, by then heir apparent to the fashion empire bestseller, inherited more than just a brand. He assumed control of a family legacy in Denmark's fashion market, complete with popular labels like Jack and Jones, Selected, Only, and Vera Moda. However, what could have been a mere handover ceremony became a pivot point, as the young Povlsen wasn't content to rest on familial laurels. In 2007, the Denmark-based bestseller, already a household name in Scandinavian fashion, decided it was time to go big or go home, literally. With Povlsen at the helm, bestseller expanded its footprint from cozy Denmark to the far reaches of Turkey, India, Hong Kong, and Italy. This wasn't just a retail rollout. It was a full-on couture invasion, designed to stake a claim in an increasingly crowded global marketplace. And Povlsen's daring didn't stop at adding a few cute landmarks. In 2012, he made a play that could be called the financial equivalent of a runway debut, investing nearly £21 million in British online retailer ASOS. And owning a 22% stake in ASOS isn't just an impressive line on a resume. It's an indication of Povlsen's knack for seeing a bright future in online fashion retail. As we so clearly see now, years late, ASOS was a springboard for a larger agenda that included a rethink of its merchandising strategy and a supply chain overhaul. And with a predilection for strategic acquisitions, Povlsen led bestseller through the cutthroat world of global fashion, staking £23.3 million in 2018 for a majority share in lifestyle brand Toast. Think of it as corporate matchmaking with a flair for style. Toast was the fizz that bestseller needed to keep its brand cocktail interesting on the global stage. And while some fashionistas might struggle to tell a web server from a serving tray, Povlsen showed digital savvy early on. Recognizing the infinite aisle appeal of online retail, he invested in e-commerce as if it were going out of style, only it wasn't. One memorable deal was his investment in Minto, a Danish online platform that makes more connections than a room full of singles at a speed dating event, linking over 1,000 brick-and-mortar stores to eager buyers. This was more than a financial transaction. It was Povlsen reading the zeitgeist and betting on a digital shift in consumer behavior. But even as Povlsen invested in the fast-paced world of e-commerce, it was apparent that his aspirations extended beyond the digital marketplace. His uncanny ability to anticipate consumer trends was setting the stage for a dramatic geographic shift, a transition that would take him from the virtual shopping carts of online retail to the verdant landscapes of the Scottish Highlands. When Danish magnate Anders Holck Povlsen first set his sights on Scotland's 42,000-acre Glenfeshie estate in 2010, he was not just acquiring another trophy asset. Instead, he was indulging an enduring passion for Scotland's rugged natural splendour, first ignited during the aforementioned family fishing trip in the 1980s. Now imagine a business tycoon not merely interested in land for the sake of wealth, but with the audacity to roll up his sleeves and reverse centuries of environmental degradation. Povlsen's venture, appropriately named Wildland, harbours a long-range vision, 2 centuries long to be precise. Its mission: to restore the flora, fauna and overall ecological equilibrium of Scotland's Highlands. Roll over to 2015 and Povlsen had put his money where his eco-conscious mouth was. He sank serious cash into rewilding initiatives across his ever-expanding portfolio of estates, earmarking an estimated £50 million for the next 3 years. But it wasn't just about conservation as a fanciful idea. It was a minutely orchestrated strategy for ecological rejuvenation. One of his many projects involved reviving a slice of the ancient Caledonian pine forests, which once blanketed the region. And the billionaire wasn't acting in a vacuum. Other players, be it private individuals, non-profits, or wide-eyed environmentalists, were joining the rewilding bandwagon. Initiatives varied from beaver reintroductions to planting entire new forests. Indeed, the Scottish Rewilding Alliance even dared to float the idea of making Scotland the world's first rewilding nation, envisioning a 10-year plan to restore 30% of the land and seas. And, in 2017, Povlsen's love affair with Scotland had, let's say, levelled up. With a land ownership sprawling across 230,000 acres, worth north of £120 million, the Danish billionaire officially became the largest private landowner in the UK. For perspective, that's more land under one man's control than even the Church of Scotland has at its disposal. With that much land to wield, it's not surprising that Povlsen's approach has its fair share of critics. Undoubtedly, many take issue with so much of Scotland's land being concentrated in the hands of a few ultra-wealthy stakeholders. Naysayers argue that this hardly fosters a dynamic, public-centric land management strategy, and thus, even Povlsen's rewilding projects are scrutinised. Advocates for a more democratised approach to land ownership question the potential societal impact, from community displacement to the potential triggering of public interest reviews, despite the ecological benefits. But undeterred by this discourse, Povlsen and his Wildland Looted continue to invest not only in ecological restoration, but also in community projects. Yet he took steps to better communities and the Scottish landscape. An unforeseen calamity would put his own personal world to the test. Could the man who seemed to have it all, wealth, influence, and a partner in both life and mission, navigate the choppy waters of personal tragedy with the same skill he applied to boardrooms and estates? In a story that blends high finance with the ebb and flow of personal tragedy, Anders Holck Povlsen finds not just a life partner in Anne Storm Pedersen, but also a business confidant. Pedersen, a Danish business executive with an eye for interior design, also served as a catalyst for the couple's shared rewilding project, an ambitious undertaking to rejuvenate swathes of the Scottish Highlands. Indeed, Pedersen's aesthetic talents have found a new canvas in the Scottish hills, where she's transformed aging farmhouses into luxury estates, while Povlsen busies himself with the rewilding of these lands. Without a doubt, Anne is far from an armchair partner. She is a mother to their children and a board member at Bestseller. Clearly, family involvement is a key aspect of the business. Long after Povlsen assumed full control of his family's enterprise, his parents have remained engaged in the process, fortifying the notion that Bestseller is, at its heart, a family business. Furthermore, it was a vision of legacy that Povlsen was keen to pass on, revealing plans to bequeath the Scottish estates to his children just days before unspeakable tragedy would strike. Thus, the date, the 21st of April, 2019, will forever be etched in the world's memory. Devastating terrorist attacks in Sri Lanka. Among the victims were three of the Povlsen children, Alfred, Alma, and Agnes, who were visiting the island nation during the Easter holiday. The Povlsen family was staying at the Shangri-La in Colombo, an ill-fated choice as Islamist extremists made the hotel one of their targets. The aftermath left the couple expressing a solemn thanks for the outpouring of global sympathy, while also extending their condolences to others who had suffered. The tendrils of their grief reached back to their adopted Scottish homeland, where communities held special services to mourn with the Povlsens. In a twist of irony, or perhaps cosmic balance, the tragedy drove Povlsen to further community investment. He funded a cutting-edge health facility for Scotland's remote locales and extended a crucial loan to the Ascent Foundation, a struggling local charity. And as if an international tragedy wasn't enough, Povlsen also grappled with professional setbacks in the form of the coronavirus crisis, which dealt a blow to his businesses. Staff layoffs and controversy over government aid ensued, but the setbacks didn't deter him from maintaining his environmental and philanthropic pursuits, such as donations to youth affected by the pandemic. Thus, Povlsen's ongoing resilience after a devastating loss and a pandemic-induced economic downturn is not just an exercise in survival, but an illustration of resolve. Whether it's boardroom decisions or personal tragedies, his story offers a revealing glimpse into a complex, layered life. Yet, as Povlsen cultivates an ethic of resilience and resolve, both in the corporate sphere and in the terrain of his own personal life, another pressing issue emerges. How will he reconcile the paradox that lies at the very heart of his disparate worlds, fashion, known for its transient trends and wastefulness, and land ownership aimed at long-lasting conservation? Now, when one thinks of the fashion industry, climate positive isn't the first phrase that springs to mind. But Anders Holck Povlsen has sashayed into the spotlight with the audacious aim of making the Danish fashion house climate-friendly by 2030. Unveiled in 2019, his Fashion Forward, styled FWD, strategy was more than a nod to sustainable haute couture. It was an operational overhaul. The strategy had the trappings of corporate lingo: climate positive, fair for all, and circular by design. In layman's terms, this means Bestseller would seek to erase its own carbon footprint and then some, making Mother Earth ever so slightly less irritated with human habitation. By 2021, the company could flaunt some bona fide progress. We're talking reducing greenhouse gas emissions and sprucing up biodiversity, among other feats. Bestseller also put its selected brand under the microscope of the Higg Index Transparency Program. Think of this as the nutritional label for fashion, giving customers the lowdown on how green their jeans really are. Meanwhile, Povlsen was also gallivanting around the British Isles, pulling the purse strings of the UK's high street and retail markets. A little £53 million trinket he picked up in 2017 was none other than the Princes Street premises in Edinburgh. Though its occupant, Jenner's, went belly up in the pandemic, Povlsen saw beyond its retail legacy. The property is set to swap price tags for pillow mints as a swanky hotel, but it hasn't all been smooth sailing, or should we say catwalking. Povlsen's over 200,000-acre Scottish land portfolio caught flack from critics wary of too much power being concentrated in too few hands, and his corporate caution against the proposed Sutherland spaceport caught the eye or ire of many. His concern? That the rockets might disturb the Scottish heather and harm the environment. The counter-argument? That Povlsen himself was engaged in a little astroturfing to protect his interests. Corporate ethics, too, were in the crosshairs. While Bestseller boasted a bumper year in 2021 and 2022, market headwinds loom large, making some wonder if sustainability can survive economic downturns. Yet the Povlsen empire soldiers on. As of 2023, the CEO has kept his eye on the prize, pushing Bestseller into new frontiers such as logistics and e-commerce while staying rooted in sustainability. And if you think his empire is strictly limited to buttons and threads, think again. He recently bought FC Midtjylland, one of Denmark's top soccer clubs. And thus, while Povlsen's Scottish expanses have ruffled some kilts, his wildland company is on a mission to give back to nature. Millions of trees planted, ecosystems on the mend, and community businesses supported. Povlsen's vision extends beyond fabric and fashion. And now, we'd like to see you in the comments. Have you heard of Anders Povlsen before, or have an opinion on his intense life story and business practices? We love hearing from our community about their thoughts regarding titans of modern industry. We look forward to hearing from you. And as always, thanks for joining us again at Old Money Luxury. Cheers, until the next episode.